everyone. Welcome to Real Dad Speak. And my guest today, I was introduced to him by my producer recently. And my guest is a national encourager, a facilitator, a talk show host, a mentor, vocalist, producer, visionary, coach, author, community activist, and proud father of five. He has received the Spirit of Detroit Award, as well as resolutions from Wayne County and the state of Michigan. He encourages boys and supports fathers. He changes families and our community one encouraging word at a time. He is known for his quote, "Time is all we have to change who we are." My guest today is Calvin T. Mann. Hello, Calvin. Welcome.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. All right. Well, I'm going to start off with some basics questions and then we'll get on with it. All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
And what city did you grow up?
So I'm a 8 Mile baby, and I grew up on 8 Mile. Was born and raised at Highland Park General, and I was born and raised right there on 8 Mile and Prairie, and then I end up on the other side of 8 Mile in Royal Oak Township.
Oh, okay. How'd you end up there? Parents
So,
moved or you, as an adult, you moved?
so my grandparents, my
Oh,
grandparents lived in Royal Oak Township. My grandfather was a plumber. Father, they had 10 bodies in one house. The house is still in our family. Over 216 bodies came out of that house
wow.
by way of my grandparents. And when it got tough, my brother was at Mumford. It was a big old fight at Mumford, and my mother had been trying to get us out of the city. And so in 1977 she was able to find housing in Royal Oak Township, and we moved to Royal Oak Township.
Okay. All right. So were you going to school at Mumford as well? Or were
No,
you?
I was fighting at every institution you had. So I was kicked out of Pastor, I was kicked out of Hickenbotham, I was kicked out of Bovian. I fought every day. I fought all the time. I was the typical 10-year-old. When my parents divorced, I was an emotional young man, right? And so I was also innovative and creative and a good kid. You know what I mean? But when my mother and father split, for me it was let's get it on. If you said something to me, we had to fight.
So you had that anger in you and didn't know how to manage it, huh?
Man, I was terrible. I set a garage on fire at at Pastor. That's what got me kicked out of Pastor. And then it didn't burn up like you would think. It just caught on fire. They put it out, and then I ended up at Hickenbotham, and I ended up singing in the choir for when Coleman Young was selected. Miss Glenn was the teacher, and I was one of the kids in the choir on television singing "Hats Off" to Coleman Young. So yeah,
Wow. From a little guy that's got anger to being able to see. But you said you were innovative. So, yeah.
yeah, I come from that. My dad was a gospel pioneer. My mom, they both sing, and so music was natural in our family.
Okay. Were your grandparents too?
No, my grandfather on my mother's side was a plumber,
Mhm.
and my grandfather on my daddy's side was a pastor and a pipe fitter.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So your siblings, how many do you have and are they singers as well?
So it's a total of seven with my mother and father and 10 with my dad. We're all together. Um, my youngest brother is a singer. My oldest brother is a singer. One of my younger brothers is a rapper. Um, I sing. My sister sing. My sister Sue has sang, and that's pretty much all of us.
So y'all didn't do like the whinings
We did.
or
We did. That's a tough story. We did. We had produced me and my brothers called the Man Brothers. We had produced the album, and we produced two albums. This when my dad showed back up and came into the studio this once, and we had an opportunity, and we got tricked and told that Quincy Jones was going to be one place and he was at another place, and I took it personal. My dad is a gospel pioneer that gave you Matty Moss Clark. So my dad was Reverend Columbus Mann, who,
Okay.
when you see these choir directors, that's where they got to be jazzy with choir directors. My dad was that guy, and he was a pastor. And um, when we split up, he remarried, and he had some other siblings, some other children, and but I ended up losing my parents early. So I lost
Ah.
my dad died by aneurysm. Uh, I was just turning 24, and my mom, she passed from a diabetic induced heart attack. I was 30.
Wow, my condolences. Wow.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask that anger that you had, when they got divorced, was it toward your dad because they couldn't get along?
No,
Or
no, I
did you
was.
think you had something to do with it?
It wasn't necessarily that I was angry at my dad or my mom, right?
Okay.
I just knew something had changed,
Hmm.
and but you know, my story really. I was working at the corner store at 8. At 9, I was churning pizza dough at Dino's Pizza. Right. 10, I'm shoveling snow, running away from my brothers. Paper route. I never sat still
Okay.
as a young man because they never. My parents had charter buses. We had, together they had. I think my parents had one of the first contracts with Swanson Funeral Home, of helping move. They had Cadillacs every year.
Wow.
We had two charter buses, and when they split, all of that changed.
Right.
We
Right.
were introduced to poverty. So when you get introduced to poverty,
Hmm.
right, where I
Right.
come from, as a young man, I was teaching kids how to do, we was doing dance routines, all that. So I always have been, what I discovered later on in life, I've always been a leader.
Okay. So, but prior to the divorce, were you and your dad really close?
We were getting there, right? Um, I was my earlier prior to the divorce, I was my dad's everything. I was everywhere with my dad, and it was my brother's godfather who told me, like, literally I was his favorite. Right? He dressed
Really?
me. Yep. He dressed me, took me everywhere with him, the whole nine, and I seen a lot as a kid. And my dad helped produce at least 8 songs on Motown, all of that, right? And so they done sold his catalog. They sold their catalog so much, right? We've been having a hard time trying to get to where the hell is his money, right?
Yes.
And so, we got a lawyer. Lawyer looked into it, but they made it such a difficult piece. I figure it's going to take me getting very popular and becoming and to get some things done. So, for my dad, and because he deserved that. As a matter of fact, my cousin found one of his original albums. I'm going to frame it.
So when your brother's godfather told you that you were your dad's favorite, did anybody else know, or did you get a chip on your shoulder and start walking around like you were better than your siblings at that
No,
time
no,
when you
no,
learned
no,
that?
no,
Okay.
no. I'm me being the middle kid. I'm in the middle.
Okay.
Um, I'm a unifier,
Okay.
right? I'm not the a lot happens when uh, kids don't have their fathers.
Yes.
A lot happens. Anything can happen. I mean, being a kid, you know, anything can happen. And I just was so fortunate, even with all I, had to do with, like, I'm writing my book right now, All Ingredients Count. And I was sharing a story about, when I walk out the house as a young man on 8 Mile and Prairie, across the street was Liz and Sunny Man. Next to 2 doors from them was Mr. and Mrs. Thornton.
Okay.
Uh, Down the street was the Youngs, the Boatwrights, and right next to me was my Aunt Sam and my Uncle James. And above them in a two-family flat was Mr. Cecil Hall, who had kids
Mm-hmm.
and was running a construction company out of the two-family flat, right? And so to the left of me was Mr. Thomas on the corner, And Mike was the first man I seen had custody of his son as a child in the 70s. So
Wow.
I was surrounded. Next door was Mr. Wayne, who had the daughter, and she was beautiful. You know, as a young man, you had your little early crushes. So I was so fortunate that these men were able to pour into me, and so and do things for me that I go nowhere without not speaking about them.
Wow. Wow. So I was going to ask you who influenced you as a dad. You just told me.
Oh yeah,
The village.
it was
Yeah.
the village. It was and for fatherhood, I was scared for me. So at 23, when I became a father, my son's mother was 12 years older than me. I was uh, I was scared, and here I was with uh, coaching high school basketball, doing my thing. I was the youngest varsity basketball coach at Ferndale, coaching varsity girls basketball, and then I was associate to my uncle, to the board. Excuse me. And so I was afraid when I became a dad because of the environment you see. We see that. We see how America and its culture and its people treat fathers. So when I became a father, I was fired up to know that my first was a boy,
Mhm.
and I spoke life and into my son, and then I made a bunch of emotional decisions that I had to learn from, and fatherhood really became important to me because I started looking at other fathers, and the one thing that I was big on is I couldn't learn from a bad father, right? So let me find some fathers that I could really see how they're doing it and kind of duplicate it. But the thing that impacted me the most was coaches clinics. When I went to so and I was 20 years old when Jim Curry, another father, became my godfather. I was 20 years old, walking out of selling drugs, and didn't want to do that no more.
Okay.
And I walked to the recreation in the township where Mr. Curry had gave us every opportunity. We called Mr. Curry the GOAT. Jim
Okay.
Curry gave us every opportunity, and so I walked up there one day and was like, open up the door, and he was coming out the office, and I was like, man, I don't want to, I don't want to do this. Like, can you do something? Can you help me? He said, oh, come on, and he walked me into the office, and he went into the wooden cabinet that I very ever seldom ever seen him go in. Because I worked for this man during the summer as a kid, right, and where I could train because I was playing basketball. So he opened up the cabinet, and he put a whistle around my neck. And when he gave me that whistle, he walked me around a corner into the gym. And in the gym was two teams. There was a girls' team and a boys' team. On the boys' team was my brother, Cornell, my cousin, Dwayne, who's the head coach at Western. My brother's the head coach at Grand Valley, and many other young men. And then to the right was the girls, right? And,
Hmm.
his daughter and Zeta and a whole bunch of other girl, Pam Williams, who would go on to play at the University of Missouri. So these are the people that I got to coach with no experience. And once I got into that and we won the gold medal,
Wow.
I was 20 years old and it blew my mind. So then I was gone. Like, what can I do? And so I started going to coaches clinics, and the coaches clinics with all these top coaches and speaking to former professional players and coaches and big time coaches. I was going to the coaches clinics at 20, driving in a car to learn, right? Because I didn't learn much. My coach didn't look out for us like that, right? So for
Oh.
me, it was okay, how can we do this, right?
Mhm.
And I made relationships with college coaches and everything as I was going to these coaches clinics, and eventually um, I was able to get my uncle and them to, from the staff, from the boys team to go. And from that point, developing a young basketball player became, second nature to me. And we put over 40 young men in school.
Wow. So sports is that organized sports is so important to developing a young man or a young woman and to become
Organized sports
responsible.
for us
Okay.
was more about the kids getting their dream. It
Okay.
wasn't about us
Hmm.
being celebrated or validated in a way that we was this great, like you see. No, we were concerned about every young man that was in our possession having the opportunity to get his dream,
Right.
right? Because that became the draw for us. So
Mhm.
when we went out and and I did a bunch of looking for kids, looking for talent. We didn't look for the best talent.
No.
No, we looked for the average talent, kids that nobody wanted.
Okay.
We looked for that, right? And
Mhm.
so for me, because I could take that kid who was a duck and turn him into an ego. You see what I'm saying? So we were able to cultivate, change, move, even against their own will. A lot of
Right.
the guys didn't like us, right? Didn't like me for sure because I was the bad cop because I got to develop you. Me and
Okay.
my uncle, good cop, bad cop. So I'm pushing you
Hmm.
beyond you, and I don't care, right? And so
Hmm. Yeah.
we playing the good cop, bad cop, but we were able to get a lot of young men into their dreams and off to their destinies, and that's what it was all about for us.
Wow. Wow. And I had my notes here saying, would you say that it was your family support, especially from the men in your life, that allowed you to graduate from high school, go to college, become one of the youngest AAU coaches at Ferndale High School? But you just confirmed that to me.
Yeah, no, I was
Oh,
kicked out of college. I
okay.
just spoke at Rochester College, which was Michigan Christian College.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I said, I wasn't treated the way that I thought I should have been treated, but it taught me a lot, and maybe that was God's intent, was for me to
Okay.
become what I've become today, right? No, we're gonna take that away from you and make sure you get this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went off to a Christian college, I was hurt. I was devastated. I was a different type of kid. My dream, I didn't care, right? And so when I got kicked out of college, I went to what changed my life more so was when I went to the Special Olympics. A friend took me to Special Olympics,
Mm-hmm.
and I went over to the Special Olympics and I saw those kids, and I'm talking about I sobbed and cried all day. Like, look at these kids just do all this stuff regardless to their limitation.
Right.
And so that is what catapulted me into, I messed around with the street for a second, but then I saw somebody free base. That was enough for me because I knew better, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
was raised better, and so that's what led to that. And so I just poured in, got into this lane, and stayed there. And then one day I woke up and God said, "This is your purpose."
Wow. Wow. Because you said you became a dad. Now you said you're 23.
Yep,
You became a dad. Did you ever consider getting married early?
I did. I married at 23.
Oh, you did get married at
Yeah,
23.
I did
Okay.
get married. Yeah. So when my
So,
son was born at 23, I got married at 22.
okay.
My son was
What
born.
about your friends when you were in high school? Did you have any friends that became teenage dads or anything like that? Or
Um, yeah, I had one. Lee Grabke. He was one. He became a teen. Well, while we was in high school, he became a dad, right?
Mhm.
But Lee had a big support service. The Philippines is a big support service, so he had a big support around him. But at the same time, he dealt with a lot for his old
Right.
boy. You know what I mean? And he would go on. Now Lee didn't get, his he got one son getting ready go to the 10th grade. He got married and he got Lee got 7 kids. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so and he's a good dad.
Right.
And we've been friends since middle school. And what's crazy about Lee's story is Lee Odom's brother went to school with my brother Kalum when my brother Kalum was over in Ferndale, and his brother came to our house. So our families, the Grabkes and the Manns, has a legacy of connection through different siblings. Lee's sister and Lee. and I went to high school together. My brother Cornell and David went to school together. My brother Colum and Michael went together. So our families remained intact.
Good. Now you said that the career that you have, I was going to ask you, did you choose it or did it choose you? And you said God chose it for you.
Yeah, it's funny how what happened to me was a fire, right? So that fire stayed. I'm gonna protect any and every kid, right? So their dreams would be possible. So that was the thing for me because I saw adults literally sabotage mine. It was for me to make sure any and every child, girl, boy that came to me, right? How can I help you get your dream? And so for me, it was the input. I
Mhm.
offered a certain ingredient to help them get to where they needed to go. Now they might not have finished playing basketball, but they got so much ingredient from spending time with me that they went and had the different success. And I'm blessed to say that was just a small smidget because after like I've lived three lifetimes. So after coaching high school ball, I came to the city and was coaching my son's middle school team. So all those boys, right, would go on to have collegiate success in sports and everything. And right now, one of those boys is the head coach at Gabriel Richard, where we are hosting our football camp. So having different stories and being able to take what I had here,
Mhm.
move it out here. This is why you see so much because early on, they put so much of my foundation by me going to those coaches clinics and learning how to research, study, break down film, compete. It gave me a strategic approach in life.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So this career, um, so who really influenced you? Was there anybody else that was being an encourager, activist? Um, was there anybody, or you just had God just gifted you with this ability?
No, I grew up with two givers,
Okay.
my mother and father. I got a double dose. They were both Virgos. I'm a Virgo, so I get a double, triple dose of Virgoism. My mother used to help prostitutes off the streets. My mother's oldest brother was a pimp, and my mother would sabotage all his pimping, right? But when we were growing up, even seven, she always had room for more because her oldest brother Richard passed at birth, so she became the oldest
Oh.
when she was born of the 10. And so she had brothers who were athletes, and so I grew up in this environment. In fact, my uncle that I coached with used to take me and sit me at his high school basketball games
Hmm.
at Ferndale High School.
Okay.
So I got to experience, a lot, not knowing that it would, later on it would come into play. So the the DNA between my two parents and my father, me being born in 1965, so I'm a revolution baby, right? So I'm not the one that sits back and I have to wait till we have to wait till everything is perfect to do something. I know
Mhm.
that we can do something, and maybe that's not such a great way because everybody say you got to have this in place. Well, while you're working to get those things in place, we have a suicide level that's through the roof in our
Yes.
culture for boys 5 to 11. We have a suicide level for our children 14 to 24 that's through the roof that we're not paying attention. We have a crisis at the foster care system that is eating alive our boys.
Mhm.
We have a crisis at the adoption agencies. We got a crisis at some areas where our boys are sitting on waiting lists and they're last to be selected. We got a crisis at where our boys are first kicked out of daycares. We got a crisis at this single household where we
Mhm.
think that how we raise our boys. that they got uh, masculine bodies but feminine minds, that somehow that's healthy. We have a crisis of mental health because when a father walks out of the door of his child's life, mentally you're causing some harm. It's going to be trauma because there's nothing in the room that walks or moves like him, or he doesn't hear the voice. We have a crisis,
Yes.
and that crisis is not being met. It is being met with blame. You can blame racism, or you can blame policy, but don't mean you sit on your hands and not do something.
True.
And
Very.
so for me, that's the if I got $2, we all eat. So it's the approach that you talk about, is the Jesus approach. I got 2 fish and 5 loaves. Let's get it.
All right. All right. So through all of this, because that's a lot, and you're in the midst of it, have you ever thought about giving it up and trying something different?
Every day.
Every day. Okay.
It's a battle every day. It's such a it's such a tough thing of being black, but it's even tougher being a black male. And it's such a tough thing to move with the information that I have
Mm-hmm.
and it being accepted in every room, right? It's also a tough thing when you have to have a certain level of who what levels who but you got to kiss, all of that, whose ring you got to hold, and all of that, right? To me, those things impede the progress that is needed for our families to help raise and build healthy children. That's just my opinion. Everybody might not agree, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
people who got big time $1 million budgets or whatever the case may be. See, well, you have to wait your turn. Well, I've never waited. I didn't get here waiting on you. Half the people don't even know when I came to the city, where I come from, how they don't ain't even took a look, right? Oh, how did this guy, who is this guy, right? They just know I don't have what they have, so they might not be looking at it. For me, the lives, when we say in 2000, since 2007, or 22,000 youth have been impacted by our work, to
See?
me, that's God. When we say, when I started this in 2004 about laying shirts where kids was getting killed, and a mom gave me this nonprofit in 2007, that's God. When I say I don't know what we're gonna do about these fathers, we're gonna make sure that we do something, but we gotta do something, and somebody turn around and give me another nonprofit, and we got good fathers only, that's God. When we talk about these things,
Mm-hmm.
for me, now I'm having to learn how to play the game. But in
Yeah.
the meantime, uh, we do our thing.
Mm. So, I mean, what motivates you to keep going? Because that's a lot. That's a lot of pressure. What motivates?
Purpose. It's purpose. If it wasn't purpose, I'd have been sold out.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's purpose. Purpose. The one thing about purpose that a lot of people don't understand, purpose doesn't allow you to walk away. Because every time you get ready to turn to walk away, God snatch on that hook. It never fails. Now, if you into something else, yeah, sure, you can do it. You can do whatever you want to do. You getting bags, you doing whatever. That's sure. But when you got that purpose,
Mm-hmm.
every day when I roll over, it's a glass of water right there on my makeshift nightstand.
Okay.
When I roll over, the phone is being plugged and it's charged. As soon as I roll over, that water is going into my body. The very first thought is, how many lives, how many people I got to talk today? What do I need to do? If it's in a mentoring program, I don't rest until the 14 weeks is over with. So my mind is constantly, how can we move these kids? That's purpose. I don't have the resources, Sister Sarah, that agencies have where I can say we're gonna no, I got this work. and I know that God is not going to allow me not to do it. And I tell you, I'm not lying to you. Every day is in the back of my mind to walk away.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So now you're traveling around the country. You're encouraging others. During the pandemic, what was your greatest challenge? Because every day it's a challenge. Well, it's a little, it's a struggle to say, should I keep going? Should I stop? But purpose is in it, so you keep going. But because what you do, going around the country, encouraging others. How was that when, governors, states shut down and slowed up the travel thing? How did you handle that?
Oh, I was in heaven.
Really?
Yes, I have a woman I could talk to every day. So we laughed, we cracked jokes, we had a ball, right? Even while we was mentoring, when they shut down and was in the middle of a mentoring,
Hmm.
we had our boys come on and design the empowerment center. And so we got this software, and they were able to help design online with us for what we have in our vision to build our own empowerment center. And
Wow.
so they were able to, the innovative lab was designed by these boys,
Okay.
right? We were able to use one of our mentees to use his voice in the Smash Suicide campaign first video. So
Wow.
we did a 3D video with the Smash Suicide campaign with one of our mentees,
Hmm.
right? The outcomes, the conversations, and the I was able to do more writing, right? I was able to get on with me and my kids. We silly, so I was able to get on the phone cracking jokes on my daughter, my sons, and everything. And we silly, so we laugh. And I mean, my daughter just cracked my head yesterday with a joke, with a picture yesterday that was hilarious. And so we try to have, because laughter makes memories.
Right.
And so we we did a lot of that, and
Hmm.
me, I'm still dead. I was consistent, and so being, cracking jokes, and when they that's our way of,
Yeah.
enjoying ourselves, and that's what we did.
Hmm. All right. So you mentioned these entities that you inherited them. I guess you could say. Now you got what, three entities?
I have two nonprofits.
Okay, two nonprofits. And then you went on and you wrote how many books? I only saw three on your website. Are there more?
Yeah, so I've written a total of five books. The sixth book is getting ready to come out, and then that's my second children's book. We'll probably be doing a book signing in August for that. And in my books, all my characters got both their parents.
Yay.
We don't do the single thing,
All right.
right? And then
Right.
and then in September, I should be finished, which is my birthday month. I should be finished my all ingredients count books, which I'm gonna put my face on the book. And that's the one we're gonna open up, and we're gonna get out here and put that in front of thousands.
All right. So with all of this activity going on, do you have a designated time to spend time alone with yourself? In other words, do you meditate? How
I,
do you get your mind clear to get ready to become the leader for all these entities and your family? How do you do that?
it's funny you asked that, right? So one of the things I do is on Sunday. Most of the time, I do nothing,
Okay.
absolutely nothing. I might cut on the TV, right? And it's sports. I might watch some sports, and they watch me, or I fall asleep. Another thing I do is write, or I'm researching. Those things really calm me. Reading,
Hmm.
those are my things, right? We just finished UOU. We're in the middle of the Disruptive Thinker for TD Jakes. Um, like, there's other books that's coming. I like to read. That's another way that I've been able to gain that. Another way
Hmm.
of getting peace is, like I said, Sometimes I just today I ain't moving. You know what I mean? And I might sit in front of the screen or be right here, and I won't do a thing. You hear me? So it just depends on the mood, you
Hmm.
know. And I'm in a creative space, so my mind, is always going like I'm looking for this a cold graphic artist for this design for a T-shirt right now, and
Okay.
just those are the things, right? If going away, in the past I've gone away to a cabin and chilled out, right, and just
Okay.
wrote. And
Mhm.
so those are the things that I do. I'm sure when they decide, to catch up and the money is right, I'm going to Hawaii, baby. I need to see what that's like. You know what I mean?
Okay. You and me both. You and me
Yeah,
both.
I need to see what.
So, would you say you've kind of got your work life balance in check?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I right after so we only do two 14-week semesters.
Okay.
It's fall and spring. That's during the school. In the summer, like I'm getting ready to take all of July. I'm taking that off.
Okay.
Yeah, we do enough, for people and families, and we're givers and carers, and so we just gonna take July off. Now the blessing is um if y'all want to cash app a brother, you can cash app a brother. So
Well, how about you tell us the names of your nonprofits and what they do?
so
Just take a second to.
encourage me. I'm young. We seed in the lives of boys to the restoration of family with intervention and prevention activities. So prevention is the antidote. We use fathers to do the mentoring. It takes 12 mentors to equal one father. So we know that if we put a father in the facility, a boy can gain something, even if it's a broken father, even if it's a father that don't even see his own kids. Once we get through training him, put him up, we pull that fatherhood out, and it impacts the man and the child, right? And so that's what we do with Good Fathers Only. Our awareness, I mean, encourage me. I'm young. Our awareness is uh, ME Respect Day. We do a Respect Day. Our Smash Suicide campaign, and our mentoring. And
Mhm.
we're working on our Reading is Life campaign. And so that's what we do with Encourage Me, I'm Young.
Okay.
With Good Fathers Only, we have a fatherhood membership. Um, our tag is Kids Need Both Parents, and we help fathers get into their kids' lives. We help fathers fight. We got resources from everywhere to help a father attain action to his father. Parental alienation is one of the biggest contributors to the failure in this country.
Yeah.
When a father is denied access to his child, you are destroying the children. When a father decides he's not going to participate in his child's life, you're destroying the children and the father. So it makes no sense for us to be doing this.
Right.
So we just want to make sure that you understand that the father is very, very valuable. And
Mhm.
we paint that picture, which I will paint the picture for you at your event, how valuable the father really is.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I can't do this anymore, Oba. I just don't see the point in going on.
Hey man, what's wrong?
I'm failing this class, and if I don't pass, I won't graduate. My family's going through financial troubles, and I just feel like there's no way out.
I understand how overwhelming that can feel. But suicide is not the answer. Did you know that suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people aged 15 to 24? And boys 5 to 11 are one in suicide. And it's even more prevalent among boys. Boys are 4 times more likely to die by suicide than girls.
Really?
That's why it's important to talk to someone about how you're feeling. Whether it's a parent, teacher, counselor, or a friend, talking to someone can really help.
I don't know, Oba.
Just give it a try, okay? And remember, you're not alone. I'm here for you, and so are the people who care about you, like your dad.
Thanks, Oba. You're a good friend.
Remember, if you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide, it's important to reach out for help. Talk to a trusted friend, family member, or a professional for support. There are also many resources available, such as the 988 and the crisis text line. Together, we can prevent suicide and save lives. If you or someone you know needs help, please call 988 immediately or visit www.cnshealthcare.org. Encourage me, I'm young.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Real Dad Speak. Our guest again today is Calvin T. Mann, and we're talking about his entities to help young men and fathers become better fathers and to realize the importance of having a father in the life of a child. We're going to continue with our interview. And Calvin, I want to ask, because you travel around the world, country, speaking to different audiences, how much do you have to depend on your wife for your support? Or how much did you have to when your children were younger? You know, how much was that? Did you lean on her for support?
So I wasn't always the organized guy.
Okay.
Um, I lost a marriage of 20 years. I was married for 20 years, and I lost that marriage. And my current wife and I have a beautiful relationship, the communication and support. And I pretty much do. We do this work together. And she works with women, and I work with boys and men and families, right? And it was tough on my
Mm-hmm.
kids for their dad to be involved in helping other kids,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing it was, a lot of people say you shouldn't do it that way, right? You should do it this way, right? And
Oh.
make sure, right, that they are the highest priority. But I had no clue
Mm.
that this passion and this purpose was brewing in my life. Like, I tried different businesses prior to, and when this hit me, I had no idea this was already in my possession. So to explain that to you, God gave me encouraged me. I'm young in 1992.
Mm.
I was working in a daycare, all white daycare in the middle of Ferndale on my off days from cutting hair. And in that process, um, I was sitting in the chair one day and the door blew open and in blew those words, encourage me, I'm young. So I called my uncle right away. And so our basketball teams, right, our kids would come up with different things that they'd find, scripture or whatever, and that would be their warm-up shirt with the words encourage me, I'm young at the base of it. And so people would come and stand and watch our basketball teams warm up and read the back of their shirts. So the basis for our work, as I shared, was it was more about shaping than it was about playing. We
Mm.
had played anybody. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? So when we was coaching, we would have one of the toughest schedules there is. We play anybody. In fact, we were so swaggy. We had three uniforms, and we actually won a basketball game against the Poors by changing the uniform at halftime. We
What?
changed the uniform into our brand new African print jerseys, shorts. At halftime, when we came out to warm up the second half, they were shocked. We was already up. We just went on and put them away, right? And people were caught off guard. We did
Hmm.
things like that, right?
Wow.
And for us, it was always about where the kid can go. Now we could have did like many other teams and got out here and did some extensive recruiting and got no. We put pieces to the puzzle. We recruited our backyard, and then the program got so popular it started recruiting itself.
Wow.
And so, with encourage me, I'm young. I set it on the shelf. It was in 2004. I'm reading a newspaper because I was going to be a comedian.
Oh.
This was way away from me. I stopped coaching. My son was in high school. I'm trying to find Calvin. And so I went to Mark Ridley's and learned how to write comedy.
Mhm.
And while I'm there, I ended up uh, while writing comedy is funny. While I'm there, I had I had to read the newspaper, right? And so in reading the newspaper, um, I kept seeing these kids dying,
Yeah. Yeah.
and while I'm seeing these kids dying, I pick up the phone. I call my brother, and when I call my brother, I'm in the process. I'm in the process of what's the what's the what's the issue, right? You know, my brother, like, what you calling me for? I'm like, hey man, these kids out here dying, man. Like kids was being hit, shot, killed,
Right.
ran over. Like, and I'm reading this in the newspaper.
Hmm.
Like, man, what is y'all doing? Like, what's going on? You know? And he said to me, he said, man, don't call me. This is my young brother, right?
Hmm.
Man, don't call me with that. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. You got all that experience. Do something.
All right.
I'm like, what? I'm like, man, go on with that, right? You know, and I get off the phone. And then the phone ring is my boy Willie Davis. So Big Will called me. He said, hey man, like this was like clockwork.
Hmm.
So not even 2 days later, Big Will called me and said, man, I thought you said you was gonna make Emmy a clothesline. I said, you know what, Will? Man, I don't know why you called me, but good looking. And so then I went to church. I took my son and I went to uh, Ronald L. Griffin's Rose of Sharon on State Fair. I went to his church because I was a member there. And so I went into church on this particular day. I took my son and he went to preaching. And uh, I'm sitting back and I'm going, no, this man in here preaching is so loud. You know, I'm trying not to pay it no attention, you know, being hard headed. And he wiped his face and he said, Calvin, man,
Wow.
you got a gift with them kids. You better go see about it. And I looked at my son and I'm sitting in the back of the church and I'm going, okay. Like, this man ain't called me out. I ain't never been called out in church. You know, I've been in church my whole life. And then so he called me out. And I'm like, wow. So then I go home and like clockwork, I got this little red book and that I was gonna use to write comedy.
Hmm.
And I was sitting in the basement and all of this stuff just started coming out of my spirit. So now I'm writing quotes. I'm writing passages. I'm writing messages. I'm writing what, you know, if it encouraged me, I'm young, gonna be this. When we get this, we gonna do this. And I'm writing. And do you know to the day
Hmm.
when I was going through my divorce, the ex-wife, every time she would put stuff like in the on the apartment porch, right? Here go your stuff. And
Hmm.
out falls the red book.
Wow.
In the red book to that date was everything I had done.
Wow. Mm.
And it seemed like every time it would be an attack on my life because I had determined at this point in the divorce, I only had a blanket. I was sleeping in the barbershop. I didn't displace my kids. I left everything.
Right.
So all I had was this blanket.
Mhm.
And one of my fathers found out I was sleeping in the barbershop, asked me, tell me I could come stay at his apartment.
Wow.
So I went and stayed at his apartment. One of my other brothers, him and his wife was looking for a place. They moved
Mhm.
in the same apartment complex and ushered me a ride to the barbershop every day. So
Wow.
as God was when I walked in, because I made the commitment the first day I came into the apartment, I said, all right, man, you done whoop me, you done beat me to a pulp.
Mm. Wow. So did you and your wife, did you sit your kids down and tell them what was going on?
My kids, my daughter was a senior in high school. I had to get her through that. My kids still don't know the full story. They just know that their parents divorced. And then when my youngest son turned 18, I promised that I would tell him, right? So we was in the car and we were driving up to Tony's up in Birch Run.
Hmm.
And he was like, "All right, Dad, you said 18, you was gonna tell me what happened."
He didn't forget, huh?
Right. And so we had the conversation and it was like, "Well, we know that." Well, then you know what happened.
Wow.
There was no hidden agenda. I didn't have, I didn't talk, I didn't talk bad about their mom, none of that. I never, you come over here, you're gonna get love. I'm not into doing that, right? And so that, and then God just, since I made that commitment, everything you see, God had did.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm talking no car to suddenly sell a house, got a car. I'm talking, uh, so I owe God everything, and that's why purpose is it.
Now, are your children old enough to follow in your footsteps?
Um, yes, they're old enough. Will they? I
Yeah.
think
Do they want to become speakers or writers?
no. I don't think that's the course for them yet. I don't think that's where they are. I know my one son. He's dabbled with gospel hip hop, but he's afraid to fully commit right to it. He loves the Lord, and that's good
Mhm.
enough for me. You know. Um, and I have two grandsons now, and my daughter and my son have got grandkids. I got grandkids, and my youngest boy, he might be the closest one because he really got that. He 19, got that leadership. He go to
Mhm.
work every day, and I'm sure in his mind there's some things that he might want to do.
Okay. So you say you some daily you might say I don't want to do this, but you stay motivated. What do you tell people about giving up or men who say I'm leaving, I can't take it anymore? How do you get them motivated? What do you tell them when they say it's too hard for me, I can't do it?
If it's purpose, it's gonna be hard.
Mhm.
If it's a bag, you can do that time and time again.
Mhm.
Purpose won't let you fall.
Right.
Purpose is gonna shape you. Purpose is gonna punch you. Purpose is gonna snatch you. Purpose is gonna wake you up. Purpose is gonna prey on you.
Mhm.
Purpose is not something that you get to walk away. You just don't. That's different. But
Mhm.
being a creator, being creative, starting a business, you can do that. Hey,
Mhm.
start another business. That one didn't work out, do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm big on getting back up. The resilience that you got to have, that was taught to me in middle school, and so you gotta be able to, get your ass up. You know what I mean? I think what we have done to our children today, we have not taught them how to get back up. We've taught them how to victimize themselves to a point that they victimize the neighborhood, they victimize their friends, they victimize each other. I think the victimization and the lies that we have placed upon our children is wreaking and reaping what you have sown. And so for me, I'd rather teach you how to get back up, right? Because if you get back up, you can get back up again. And if you fall down, you can get back up again. And
Yes.
that resilience is beautiful because
Mhm.
there were there were times I was 10, thought about suicide.
Wow.
I was 10.
Wow.
I knew that. I listen, I've grabbed my bags. The only thing changed my life was that extension cord, right? I didn't want to experience that no more, right? And so it
Mhm.
was I'll never forget that to this day. I tried running away 3, 4 times. On that fourth time, she said, "That's it. You know, you gonna run away today? Go." she opened up the door, and I hesitated, and she put that cord down. And when she put that cord down, I understood wasn't no need me to run away. But these are symptoms of a divorce. You know, my son, my youngest son, when we went through it, he broke out in bare socks, going to find his daddy.
Oh,
He was going to find his daddy. He was in
wow.
socks, walking toward his father.
Mm.
Where is my daddy at? So I get it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so that's just these are the things that taught me, and that's what helps me. But you know, you can always start another business, but you can't start another purpose.
Right. So you got to get back up. You got to
You
get
got
back.
to get back up.
All right. We come to the part of this interview where I call them my final five. It's either going to be a question or a statement. I ask you to fill in the blank or just answer the question. So,
Okay.
number one, some people say that having money is success. What is your definition of success?
Seeing that in 38 years, all my boys and youth that I was in their life are all husbands and fathers and wives and family members. My success was predicated on seeing their dreams come true.
All right. Number two, what advice would you give to a person who believes that there is a shortcut to success?
There are no shortcuts. You every time you take that shortcut, it's gonna be just like Never Never Land. You're gonna find yourself right back at the beginning. You know, Oompa Loompa. You know, the Willy Wonka. You know, what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You're going
Mm-hmm.
to find yourself every time you think that you could take a shortcut. You're gonna find yourself right back where you started. And God has a way of making you bust your head until you graduate that situation.
Mm-hmm. Number three, finish this statement. If you can't control your mind, you will blank.
Ooh, that's a good one. If I can't control my mind, I will. You don't want the answer to that. That's a that's a Kelvin man that was.
Try me, but can you do it in 2 minutes or less?
Yeah. I'm a rehabilitated womanizer, and
Okay.
that's not something that you know I'm proud of. It's something I had to learn to grow out of.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm not thinking, that's what I would be doing.
Mm. Okay. All right. What does the phrase "I'm locked in" mean to you? If a person says "I'm locked in," what does that mean to you?
For me, it would mean you're focused on exactly everything that you need to do to get to the next level, to the next moment, to the next day, to the next accomplishment.
All right. And finally, what advice would you give a person who wants to become an encourager, activist, and author while being a proud dad?
Do it. Put it on paper. When you put it on paper, baby, God has a way of showing up. So put it on paper, and let God do what He's going to do with you, for you, and in protecting you. Because it's no question that, that as I told you, it was on paper, and it shaped. It was almost like what's that movie where uh, Jumanji. You remember how Jumanji, when you know how the board, and
Mm,
you don't want to do this because it's going
right.
to pull you in, and the only way out. That's what that red book was. I wrote
Mm,
in that red book, and it took me through all these things, and then that red book falls out on the porch.
mm.
When I opened up the red book,
Everything is there.
everything and it took me through. You hear me?
Mhm.
To get
Yes.
what was on that paper, it took me through.
Hmm.
So put it on paper and don't make it foolishness.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate you. And we will talk soon, very soon. By the time this airs, we will have talked and had our event. But thank you for coming on.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Yep, great job for a rookie, huh? That's what you thought you was a rookie at the start of this. You did real good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for watching, everyone.